All right, all right. Enough dream talk, everybody. It's time to get down to business here. Welcome, everybody, on this rainy Thursday morning. I would like to acknowledge we're on the Anishinaabe Algonquin territory. The peoples of the Anishinaabe Algonquin Nation have lived on this territory for millennia. Their culture and their presence have been nurtured and continue to nurture this land. The City of Ottawa honors the people and the land of the Anishinaabe people. The City of Ottawa honors the First Nations, the Inuit, the Métis people, and their value and past and present and their contributions to this land. Today, do we have any regrets? No regrets filed. At this point, I will ask our amazing committee coordinator to go ahead and do roll call.
Councillor Bradley.
Here.
Councillor DeRoche. Councillor Devine.
Yeah, Councillor DeRose would like to be listed. He'll be back in 2 seconds. He's in the facilities.
Councillor Dudas.
Ici.
Councillor Gower.
Here.
Councillor Johnson.
Here.
Councillor Lowe.
Présent.
Councillor Luloff.
Bonjour, Monsieur le Président.
Vice Chair Kitts.
Here.
Chair Tierney.
Present.
You have quorum, Chair. Ooh, I'm so sorry. I missed you. Oh my God.
Wearing bright blue, and then we have Isabel. Oh, gate up.
Isabel Skowski.
Here.
Councillor Chaucer.
Here.
Never forgotten.
I'm
Thank
so
you.
sorry about that, Chair.
It's great. It's a rainy day today. We're all getting our coffees into us. So thank you for that. Notifications of meeting information for participants public. So that's just placeholder. We have no declarations of interest. Confirmation of the minutes 20 from June 26, 2025. Is that carried? Thank you. Responses to inquiries. I think you know I've waxed on enough about road paints. We have the 2 road paint inquiries. No one's looking to hold those. We have 2 presentations today. Forgive me, 2 items on the agenda. We have the Alto High Speed Rail Network. We do have a presentation at this point. I don't believe we have any delegations, but it is a very valuable presentation. So I asked the committee, we'll have a presentation on that. I think even Councillor Dudas has expressed interest in that as well. The item number 6.1, Summerall Boulevard Transit Priority Corridor. I think we all know this is about priority planning. We do have a presentation. We'll most likely forego that unless someone feels the burning need to have that. But we do have 2 delegations that do really want to speak today. I see them in the gallery today. So we'll hold that item. We'll come back to that. As well as we have a couple of councillors' inquiries. Item 7.1, the all-way stop control. This is Barrhaven East. Obviously, there's no delegate on this one here. Don't see. Looking at staff, speaking with staff this morning. Staff, are you fine with this application?
Yes, Chair, we will implement if approved.
Yeah. Yeah, this was on there from before, correct? This was a notice of motion previously presented. So you good? Yep. Yep. Yep, perfect. So on the councillor's report, is that received? Is that carried? Yep. So we'll hold that item. Is it a quick question, Glenn? Yeah, okay. Okay, let's go for it.
So my question for staff is, we have had very similar intersections where there are no sidewalks, no accessibility in Stittsville. That seem very similar to this intersection, and we've been told that there cannot be stop signs installed without accessibility because we are at risk of violating the AODA and of receiving a substantial fine from the province. How is this different than other intersections within the urban boundary?
Yeah, sorry, I thought this was a quick question. We'll hold this and put this on the agenda.
Well, that
We'll
was
go
my
back.
question. So that's a quick question.
Yeah, I'd like to clear the rest of the agenda first. In that case, we have 8.1 status update, Public Works Infrastructure Committee inquiries and motions for the period ending September 16th, 2025. Is this item received? We have no in-camera items. We also have the IPD 10.1. This is a report of delegated authority 2024 by Public Works. Yeah, so we'll just receive this. Received. Thank you. This is where we have the motions, which notice was previously given. I think this is probably where you're going to feed in, Glenn, more than anything, is item 11.1. We have Councillor Lowe's watershed neighborhood parking, the watershed parking. Let's see here. We have no delegations on this one.
I'd like to hold that one, Chair.
We'll hold that item. Sounds good. Item 11.2, Councillor Lowe, winter parking ban. I did speak to staff. This is a little bit different than the previous ones. Would anyone like to hold this item? Is this item carried? Yeah, I think we all have the winter situation, so fair enough. So 11.1 is the one item held. And we'll go back to the start of the agenda. So is that satisfactory, Glenn? We'll go to the presentation for the rail. We'll go to the sound law, and then we'll go to the item that you've decided that you wish to, is more parallel to what you're trying to discuss, I believe. Correct. Okay, good. So we'll start off right away with the first item. Great. We'll have Alto please come forward to give us the presentation on the high-speed rail corridor. Very exciting stuff.
Good morning, Mr. Chair, Madam Vice Chair, and members of the committee. I just want to first take a moment and say thank you very much for the opportunity to come present on our exciting project. It's been quite a 2025 for Alto High Speed Rail. My name is Peter Paz. I'm the Senior Director for Government and Public Relations for the province of Ontario for the Alto program. My colleague, Daphne Hurtubise.
Good morning. Thank you very much for having us today. So I'm a director of engineering within the Alto technical team.
And Alto was established in 2022 as a crown corporation of the federal government with its sole mandate to deliver high-speed rail from Quebec City to Toronto along a vast corridor. But before I get into a few details, I just wanted to spend a moment to talk about the problem statement. And as many of us experience on a regular basis, we continue to see high transportation costs, whether it's through driving or flying. And we also see the challenges within our network capacity. Our highways are jam-packed. We're in construction all the time. Ontario loses about $11 billion in productivity annually being stuck in traffic, let alone our transit systems are at capacity in many, many communities. And then we also have disconnected communities. For someone living in Toronto wanting to go to Ottawa, it is a 4.5 to 5 hour drive, depending on the weight of your foot. The distances create challenges for many people who want to explore the nation's capital. Next slide, please. And maybe one more after that. Thank you. On February 19th, the Prime Minister, along with our CEO, Martin Bleu, and the Minister of Transportation, announced that the Canadian government would proceed with high-speed rail, which means speeds of 300 to 315 kilometers an hour. It would officially call ourselves Alto. Beforehand, we were Via HFR, which was not the greatest name to brand. And then lastly, it announced the consortium that would help deliver the project. And I'll go into more details on that. What that announcement ultimately did for us was confirm high speed from Quebec City to Toronto. It also confirmed that we would develop a corridor that would be dedicated, so it wouldn't be shared with freight or other heavy transit. It would be reliable, and it would be frequent. And when we talk about frequent, we're talking about developing a service plan that has the ability to be every 20 minutes, every 30 minutes. So you don't even need a timetable. You just know you show up and a train will come. Next slide, please. So the scope of the project, again, is 1,000 kilometers in distance, going from east to west, Quebec City, Trois-Rivières, Montreal, Laval, Ottawa, Peterborough, and Toronto. These were the 7 designated station areas identified by the federal government when we went out for procurement back in 2022. Next slide, please. To give you an idea of the impact of what high speed will mean for Ontario and for the country, a person from Toronto wanting to travel to Ottawa can get here in under 3 hours. And some will say, well, you can fly here in an hour, but we often remind people you have to show up an hour and a half early. And if you're checking a bag, which many of us try very hard not to do, you could wait 35, 40 minutes, and you're paying a significant cost. Ottawa to Montreal in under an hour. That is a game changer. And then when you think about people who live in Peterborough, they can access city centers in under an hour now, where it can take up to 2 hours. So it is a dramatic change for many communities within Ontario. Next slide, please. In terms of benefits, we are projecting an increase in our national GDP by 1.1%, or $34 billion annually. And when you think about it broken down, that's $21 billion annually in productivity, $2.7 billion annually in increased workforce participation, and $800 million for tourism. And with tourism, I'll just pause there, and then the opportunities are limitless. I like to use the example of someone from Montreal with a family of 4 being able to come watch a Junior Jays game in Toronto on a Sunday, leave in the morning, catch the game, and still be home in time for dinner. As an avid baseball fan, I'm excited for the Ottawa Titans next year. This year, I had the opportunity to see the Quebec City Capitals and the Trois-Rivières Eagles. And you can do this in such a quick time that you're spending the day versus having to spend a significant amount of time on weekends. We have had the endorsement of major tourism associations in both Ontario and Quebec because they see the potential. They not only see the potential from a tourism perspective, but from a labor force perspective as well. Next slide, please. 2 weeks ago, Prime Minister Carney announced his first wave of projects of national importance. I'm proud and excited to announce that we were part of the second tranche of projects, which will be announced in November, because of the benefits for Canadians with the delivery of this project. In uncertain economic times with our neighbors from the south, the concept of building a project in Canada for Canadians with Canadian goods is one that will greatly change the infrastructure environment for the country. We are projecting about 51,000 jobs between Ontario and Quebec in just delivering the project alone. And that is very exciting, and a lot of work to do to make sure that we have the labor to be able to build. And it's not just unskilled labor, it is very much skilled labor, professions from engineering to architecture and so on. Next slide, please. We have 7 project outcomes that we measure our success by. A few that I'll just highlight is enable safe intercity journeys. That is our top priority when it comes to delivering a project and operating a project of this magnitude. We want to make sure that we're delivering the project with taxpayers in mind. Every dollar is spent appropriately and with purpose. And then the third one I just wanted to flag is around Indigenous engagement. There is the duty to consult, but for us, we believe that is the minimum standard. We see this project as a commitment to reconciliation, and I'll talk a little bit more about our engagement with Indigenous nations in a moment. Next slide, please. As I mentioned earlier, we have onboarded a international consortium made up of European and Canadian firms with vast experience in delivering heavy rail and high-speed rail projects, from CDPQ Infra to Coalis to Sistra to SNC Voyageur and Air Canada as well. It is a vast consortium with incredible experience in delivering projects of this magnitude. Next slide, please. So where are we? We are at the beginning. We are in the development phase. We have just begun stage 2 of that phase. In March, we officially signed the consortium Cadence to be our partner in the delivery of the project. With the Prime Minister's announcement a few weeks ago, we see the development phase being reduced from 5 to 6 years to 4 years, which will get us the ability to put shovels on the ground within a much quicker time. But as our CEO will say often, the speed isn't at the detriment of Indigenous and public engagement. That continues. The program that we plan to continue in making sure that we have social acceptability is one that, whether it's 4 years or 5 years, remains consistent and remains the same. But we do hope that within 4 years, we will have shovels on the ground with the ability to finish segments of the project within 5 to 7 years at a time. What is the co-development phase? It's not further studies. It is actually getting a lot of work done. It is making sure that we get the permits we need, the impact assessment that is required as a federal project to ensure we get the appropriate environmental approvals, that we do our due diligence with engagement with Indigenous nations as well as stakeholders, and making sure that we work very closely with host rail partners. So when you think about going into the city center of Toronto, that we're working closely and collaboratively with Metrolinx. And the development phase is designed so that when we are shovel ready, we are literally shovel ready and we can start construction. Next slide, please. And maybe one more after that. Thank you. What are we hearing? We began engagement even before the project was announced and even before the project was official. And we have an incredible Indigenous relations team that has gone out to the 44 nations in both Ontario and Quebec to begin conversations. And what we've been doing is getting out there without lines on a map. It's opening dialogue, having conversations, and developing a relationship that will last through the life cycle of the project. We've had over 150 meetings, and our objective is to get collaboration agreements with Indigenous nations from across both provinces. Happy to announce just recently we signed a collaboration agreement with the Huron-Wendat Nation, and we continue to do that across both provinces. Next slide, please. And engagement with elected officials and stakeholders, we have been going, I was going to say up and down, but side to side on the corridor, meeting with municipalities from Ottawa to Toronto. We have meetings with the municipality of Tweed upcoming. We want to make sure that we're meeting every size and shape of the municipalities that are in the corridor so that they have clear awareness of what the project means and what are some of the potential impacts. This engagement has allowed us to get significant support before the project was announced. We have letters of support from all the station area municipalities, and a big thank you to the Mayor of Ottawa for his support. We also have letters of support from all the 7 chambers of commerce and boards of trade along the corridor. And as I mentioned, key tourism associations. It is a project that's generating a lot of excitement. But as I like to say, it is the honeymoon phase, and we only get one chance to make a good first impression, and we have to make sure that we do engagement and consultation right. The next 2 more slides, please. Sorry, I keep forgetting to say next slide. One more, thank you. One of the key programs that we're in the early phases of developing is community benefits. As I mentioned earlier, with over 50,000 jobs coming to the country, we need to make sure that equity-deserving groups, economically disadvantaged individuals have an opportunity to participate and benefit from a project of this magnitude through workforce participation, apprenticeship, and training. We're also looking at what social procurement looks like to make sure that small, medium-sized businesses along the corridor have that opportunity to participate in the project as well. And in the concept of being a good neighbor, what do neighborhood enhancements look like? The example that I use that easily visualizes it for me is if during construction we need to use a public space for staging of heavy materials, how do we make that public space better than it was before we got there? How do we improve it? And how do we continue to be a good neighbor? So community benefits is an important program that we're developing, not just for station area municipalities, but for the municipalities that may not directly benefit from a station, but will have corridor going through it. How do we make sure we are a good neighbor there as well? Next slide, please. I'm eager to share with you and excited to share with you that we are all in on developing our engagement plan, which will begin in January, where we will go and introduce the program to the public from Toronto all the way to Quebec City. We have a number of open houses and roundtables in development with invitations going out in the coming weeks. And then following that consultation, we are looking to publish a public consultation report that talks about what we did, how we did it, what we heard, and how it impacted some of the key decisions that we're currently about to make in the coming months. Now, when it comes to, one more slide, please. When it comes to our engagement principles, we want to make sure that we develop open and collaborative relationships with municipalities, with the public, with key community groups. We want to make sure that we're open, respectful, we're local, and my goal is that we want you to be sick of us. Be here often. We want to engage with communities often to make sure that they have an opportunity to provide their input. And what's coming up? Next slide, please. We're continuing our engagement with municipalities. We have met with staff from the City of Ottawa. We're meeting again with staff in October. We are, as I mentioned, going to be hosting a series of roundtables. We have 3 currently planned for Ottawa in January, and then open houses for both the public and stakeholders through the January and March period. And that's a lot of information condensed in a short period of time, but I wanted to make sure that I left as much time for questions as possible. And I just can't thank you all enough for the opportunity to share the project with all of you. Thank you.
Oh, I forgot about that new ding. That's all fabulous. Orders up. Well, listen, thank you very much. And before we go to, we have some great questions from committee members as well as other people. Please don't finish this before our light rail project. It seems like this is going to move very quickly. But just kidding aside, FCM, obviously, we've met and talked before. We see this as something very neat and interesting as well. And as First Vice President, happy to see this kind of project go forward. And that's why I know there were some colleagues wondering, why did I have this thrown in during the Transportation Master Plan? It's because of the work with FCM, with many ministers, and seeing this as a national priority of sorts. So it's good to see it's advancing. So at this point, I'll go to Committee Member Droche.
Thank you so much, Chair. Thank you very much for the presentation and the transparency you're bringing to the work that you're doing. Just so that I'm clear, so this high-speed train, it would presumably use the existing track that would go through the Fallowfield station and end up at the Ottawa station? That's the corridor that you'd be using?
We actually haven't landed on a corridor yet. It is going to be dedicated corridor for the whole duration. Obviously, we will probably need to have joint access in some of the major city centers as we enter, but it will be dedicated track. One of the key components of what we're looking to do, Councillor, during our engagement period is share a wide corridor where community members, stakeholders can talk about areas of concern, no-fly areas, environmental areas of sensitivity. So that information can go back to our technical teams to help narrow corridors and define the proper alignment for the project.
Okay, and so just so that I'm clear, and I understand you're early in the process, that Ottawa would have a stop and there would potentially be a corridor that's not currently a corridor for high-speed train.
That's correct.
Okay, that's fair. I appreciate the answer. You're doing a great job. I wouldn't put this project in the top 100 or top 50 for our city. We've been, I think, advocating for the federal provincial governments to help us with our own inner city transit needs, such as a train to Barrhaven in Canada. I think we can better exploit the rail corridors that we have right now, like you see in Toronto, right? To have a mixed use, and the record really hasn't been good for sharing rail here in the city of Ottawa. One of the things I'm concerned about is that as you go forward, please don't download costs to the city of Ottawa. And where I'm referring to is when there are road crossings, the experience has been, of course, we want to have great separation, but the reaction has been, well, that's going to be the city's responsibility to pay for that massive infrastructure. And that's why the Strandherd Road project in Barrhaven cost so much money, is because we had to put an overpass over the rail network. And we did that because of safety. And of course, there was a horrible accident at Fallowfield that is at grade. And again, the answer has been historically, it's your road, you have to accommodate us. And I think if you're going to do this project, and if you're going to have new corridors and you're going to cross city roads, that you should take on that responsibility to make sure that they're grade separated and safe and not download that to the city of Ottawa. So I'm wondering if you just comment on that in terms of how you see your responsibility or the federal government's responsibility in bringing this project to realization and not downloading the road crossing responsibilities to the city. Thank you.
Maybe I'll turn to my colleague Daphne first, and then I'll wrap it up.
Thank you for your question. Absolutely. It's part of our requirements for safety, for reliability of the system. So that would be included in our construction costs.
Thank you. I'll stand down. Thank you, Chair. Take the answer.
Thank you, Councillor.
Terrific line of questioning. Thank you very much for that. We'll go to community member Dudas.
Thank you very much, Chair. So I don't want to be a party pooper, but this didn't make the first tranche of announcements by the Prime Minister. As you indicated, the intention is that in November, we'll hear more about it. You mentioned that we could be shovels in the ground. You could be shovels in the ground 4 to 5 years. Is that likely? I mean, we've been talking about this since what, the 60s, the 70s? How likely are we to get this thing going?
I'll start and then maybe I'll turn it over to Daphne. Based on the hours that the two of us are putting in, I feel very confident. We are full steam ahead. We do believe that we can get the co-development phase done in 4 years. We've never been this far. We're the only G7 country that doesn't have high speed or hasn't started building high speed. And the feasibility of the project, you can base it on the interest of the proponents that submitted proposals to build the project. We had 3 consortiums from across the world interested in delivering this project, which highlights the viability of something of this nature. We have funding commitment to get us through the co-development phase. It's as real as it's ever been. It's very exciting, and we have a team not only at Alto but within Cadence that are incredibly passionate to meet the deadlines, meet the timelines, make sure it's realistic. Our CEO likes to say you have to make sure you go slow to go fast, and that's what we're doing right now. And it's all hands on deck. So I feel very confident. I can't guarantee you that we're going to be there in 4 years. That would be silly. But based on the level of planning and foresight, I'm very confident that we can get there. But maybe I'll turn it to Daphne as well.
Just if I can add, maybe the differentiator this time is the approach. So we're going with a co-development with an international consortium. We're not trying to do it all, but we're partnering. So I think the experience they bring, this has been done all over the world and they've done it, I think will make this happen for real. I think that's the difference this time.
Okay, I'm not going to hold you to it, but I am excited and I'll hold you to it. You said go slow to go fast. That's my next question. I've been hearing about this project for quite some time, and the comments where it's high frequency. It wasn't necessarily going to be high speed, but now the indication is it will be high speed as well as high frequency. Is that a definite? Are we going to see? And the difference really is it goes really fast, or we see it more often, or we do both.
Yeah, it's a great question, Counselor. And I think the first thing I'll flag is that during the proposal period, each qualified consortium was required to submit 2 proposals: a high frequency proposal, so speeds up to 200 kilometers an hour, and a high speed proposal. And based on the proposals that came in, the federal government determined that the benefits of high speed outweighed any of the additional costs. So they chose to move forward with high speed. There are some changes with that. With high frequency, you can have more stations. With high speed, the more stations you have, the slower your train is. So right now we are focused with 7 station areas, and in key components of the project, we are going to achieve anywhere from 300 to 315 kilometers an hour. The high frequency is where you'll also get the reliability because we're on dedicated track. There are no other companies on that track for us to make sure we meet our timelines and schedules, and will allow us to achieve whether it's a 20, 30, 45-minute cadence at key stations on a regular basis.
Wonderful. I take the train often, either to go to Toronto or to go to Montreal, and you are completely right. You know, you're weighing it's almost like a 7-hour train ride at several $100s for myself and my daughter. Or I can take the car and still be there in 5 hours, deal with traffic, but it costs me less and it's faster. I'm very much looking forward to this, but I also know that long when I was on the Orleans Chamber of Commerce and now the Ottawa Board of Trade, everybody's talking about the economic benefit of moving people faster, whether it's so they can work in different places or visit different places. The Ottawa Board of Trade, as well as Ottawa Tourism, has expressed their support for this. You mentioned that the City of Ottawa and other municipalities have as well. I have a notice of motion that I've circulated with my amazing colleagues that really, again, commits to sharing Ottawa's support for this, as well as City of Ottawa staff's support as you go through the process. That'll come up later in the meeting, which is a notice. Is that something that is helpful?
It is not only helpful, it's greatly appreciated. The support of the committee, the city, and staff is a key ingredient for the success of the project. We're not doing this in silos. We need city staff, we need council to continue to support us and hold us to account. Make sure we get those 4 years. We are deeply grateful for that motion and that support.
It's wonderful. Well, I will be reading that in later in the meeting, but I do think that this is a huge opportunity for the federal government to pay for something that we can then tap into and leverage from an economic standpoint. It'll build a corridor for, you know, Quebec City to Toronto with Ottawa as the epicenter. And I do want more people to come here. I want more people to work here, more businesses to be attracted here, and more people to visit our nation's capital. So I appreciate this presentation. Thank you, Chair, for adding this. And I will digress at this point.
Thank you so much, Councillor.
Great. Thank you very much. And before we move to Vice Chair Kitts, Laura, I think we see unanimous support here. And I typically don't like direction, but in this situation, I think it would behoove us not to take the advantage now. And if it's the will of the committee to add a direction that this committee does support this, would that be admittable to members around the table right now? Great. Can you accept that as direction?
It's a motion, though.
No, but I'm asking staff if they'll just simply accept it as direction right now. Clerk?
Having had the opportunity to briefly review Councillor Dudas's anticipated motion, it does include a request for another level of government, so it would need to be treated as a motion and rise to council, but it could be dealt with as part of this item if that was the will of committee.
Yeah, let's go ahead and deal with it with this part of the item with the specific requests.
It'd be okay if I read it in now, there, Chair.
Yeah, why don't we just go ahead and put that on the screen if we could real quick? And with the will of the committee, can we move this notice of motion directly to the floor for this item right now? Thank you.
Wonderful. Well, then
You can probably just go to the therefore.
I think
Thank
I
you.
mentioned a significant portion of it in my question. So
You could post the whereases later, but we'll skip to the
be it
therefore.
therefore resolved that the mayor, on behalf of council, write to the Prime Minister, the Minister of Transport, and the Minister of Infrastructure to express the City of Ottawa's strong support for the Alto High-Speed Rail Project and to encourage the federal government to maintain momentum and prioritize Alto High-Speed Rail Project through the Major Projects Office. And be it further resolved that city staff be directed to continue engagement with Alto technical teams and report back to council on opportunities for local integration, community benefits, and with major project updates.
Great, thank you. So we'll vote on that at the end as the amendment to the actual carrying of this. We'll go to Vice Chair Kitts.
Great. Thank you very much, Chair. Thank you for being here. Certainly an exciting project. So it's great to get an update with, tremendous economic benefit to Ottawa. Though as my colleague said, we certainly do have pressing local transportation issues, but I have been championing an intergovernmental approach to regional transit. So I'm hoping that this project leads to more collaboration and conversation and ultimately investment. I have a question about next steps. So will you be releasing the network map and then consulting on the corridor, or is that flipped? Are you consulting with communities and then the consultation will determine the corridor?
Fantastic question. We are consulting on a corridor because we don't know what our alignment is yet. And, sound engagement principles that, we support is throwing lines on a map and saying which one you like the most or which one do you hate the least doesn't create a good consultation process. So we are creating a wide corridor. I call it a dynamic corridor. So it can be 10 kilometers, 12 kilometers, depending on the geographies in which you're going. And where it's obvious that you need to make it narrower, it'll be narrower. But what we want to be able to do is get input from the public and from stakeholders, and that will form part of a broader criteria that we're reviewing to help inform what a preferred alignment will be. And then once we have a preferred alignment, we then go back out and say, based on the feedback, based on the technical feasibilities, based on costs, based on environmental impact, this is the alignment that we're looking at, or a narrow corridor that we're looking at, and going back to the public again to get their feedback, make sure, if there's anything that could have been missed. No one knows their community better than people who live in it. So we want to make sure that we give them an opportunity to provide input.
Wonderful. I'm very glad to hear that the engagement is going to be early. There is a particular interest in my ward because the city leases an old via corridor that is used heavily for recreation. So, definitely keen to participate in the next steps of the process. Selfishly hoping that corridor is not the one chosen, but just to say that, there are homes, there are farms, and there's definitely interest. So we'll look forward to sort of more of those nitty-gritty details to come.
And Councillor, if it's okay with you, I'd love to schedule some time to meet to talk about, I'm guessing it's the Prescott-Russell Trail. So it would be and hear your insights and thoughts about it.
Okay, wonderful. I welcome that opportunity.
Thank you, Councillor.
One final question, and again, appreciating that we're at the very early stages. Do you have any sort of high-level ideas on how this may integrate with local transit?
We are still in the early phases, but as I like to say, if you build a station, people just don't show up. You need to get them there, and it needs to be easy for people to get to stations. So when it comes to transit integration, first mile, last mile solutions, that's the importance of the motion that's been put forward, is the collaboration with city staff to ensure that we're not just meeting the needs of the train system, but we're meeting the needs of Ottawa residents who want to access the train, whether it's via transit, cycling, walking, pickup, drop-off opportunities. But maybe I'll also turn it over to Daphne if there's anything that she'd like to add.
Absolutely, and we're very committed to our project outcome. I don't know if you we've only highlighted a few, but this integration with local transit network is paramount for us, absolutely. So it's a big network of different tier, and we'll be part of it.
Okay, wonderful. Certainly a very complex project, a lot more conversation to come. And I look forward to participating. So again, thank you for being here and presenting to us early and engaging us in the conversation. Thanks.
Great. Thank you for that. We have Councillor Carr, and then we'll go back on the board with Committee Member DeRoche. Councillor Carr.
Thank you very much. The reason why I'm last is because I'm not on this committee, and I've never attended in person, but I'm very interested in this. I am the councillor for Alta Vista Ward, which includes Tremblay Station, the existing Ottawa Via Rail Station, and very interested to hear this discussion. I would note further to my colleague's question about integration with existing transit that Tremblay Road also is on LRT Phase 1. It is, you mentioned, what's our baseball team? Titans. You can go across the path there very quickly. So, you know, I've sort of made an assumption that could be false, that Tremblay station would somehow be involved in the development of in corridor lands. I'd be remiss not to notice that the fact that it is along a swath of federally owned lands, starting at Herdman Station and ending at Tremblay Saint Laurent, it's situated in a vast amount of federally owned lands. Am I early to make the assumption that you would be leveraging the existing VIA assets to include that, or are we still sketching out potential corridors?
Well, we're still sketching out potential corridors, but when we think about stations, we want to make sure that stations are easily accessible. It's where people are. And then there's opportunity for growth and development. Those are key important components. And obviously, whether it's Tremblay or Union Station in Toronto, there are a lot of stations that make a lot of sense. But we just need to do our due diligence and work with city staff to make sure that we can confirm assumptions, get their inputs before making a final decision on the actual station location. But Daphne, anything you want to add?
Like Peter said, there's a lot of factors we're looking at. It is certainly, you know, you've named a few of those key elements. We'll be scoring, if you will, in our assessment of the best possible location.
I'll be really interested to follow this discussion going forward. There's a small community, Eastway Gardens, known as Alphabet City to many, within that area. And I receive a lot of feedback already about the noise, this sort of stuff. So if it is considered, that community benefits aspect of that is something that I'd be really interested in following along with. I just have a question with respect to sort of the stage of the project. You're just about to enter the development phase, is that correct? Which is about to span 4 years?
We have entered it. We completed stage 1 in July, and we've now moved into stage 2 of 4 in the co-development phase.
Okay, so you've already secured funding for the entire development stage, the 4 years of funding?
The federal government has given us $3.9 billion for the co-development phase.
Okay, so once that's finished, you then have to seek the funding for the much larger funding that's going to be needed for the development execution. Okay, so is the Canadian Environmental Impact Agency already involved? Are they already doing the assessment?
Heavily involved. We have begun the impact assessment process. We've started doing field studies over the last few years, and we have a comprehensive field study program being planned in 2026, 2027, 2028.
Okay, excellent. And my understanding would be you'd continue to run the existing trains until the project is complete, and then you would have an integrated network. You would have high-speed rail would be the only rail within that corridor, right?
Are you referring to the VIA corridor on the north shore of Lake Ontario?
Well, just there's going to be 7 stations, if I understand it correctly,
yes,
in the high-frequency rail proposal, correct?
Correct.
So you've still got local via service to communities that will be that won't be part of this. Like, for example, Peterborough, I think is one example that we provide service to, that won't be on the network?
No, Peterborough has a high-speed train
They
station.
do, but some of the other smaller communities won't. So we
Correct.
would continue to have local Via Rail service.
Via Rail will continue to operate, and we've divided our project into different segments. Once a segment is complete, it will go into operation. We won't wait for the entire 1,000-kilometer corridor before we start service.
Okay, so would you, like, I'm just trying to imagine, sorry, pardon my question, like, we would have just high frequency rail, for example, to Montreal. We would no longer have or would you have a local
Service,
network that's
the Via Rail service will still continue as what it looks like in 10, 15 years. We don't know, but it provides incredibly important service to a lot of communities along the lake.
Okay, yeah, just trying to imagine. Okay, so it would still, but you would do your best to integrate the two networks and use obviously the existing real estate space assets sort of thing. Okay, and when I mentioned, my particular community that has that large swath of federal land, I imagine you're looking when you're developing the corridor and the alignment as well, you're probably looking at development opportunities and how communities are served. How are you working with other federal government partners, for example, when, interest in terms of building this transportation network, but also the housing that goes with it? Like, how is that being integrated together?
So another fantastic question. We are working very closely with the NCC as well as Housing Infrastructure and Communities Canada around the housing component. Transit-oriented development or transit-oriented communities are critically important concept here in Ontario. And we see the project as an enabler for housing. So we have to work really closely with HICC, and obviously the NCC plays an important role in the Ottawa region as well. But we're very closely connected.
Okay, thanks very much. And if this does implicate my community, as I suspect it might, I'd be interested in having further discussions. Thank you.
And Councillor, I'm happy to extend an invitation to yourself to do a briefing and to all councillors that are interested. We want to be here often. We want to make sure that you're very well informed.
Great. Thank you for that. And forgive me, Councillor George, if it's okay, Councillor Devine, committee member. Thank you.
Thank you, Chair, and thank you, Councillor DeRoche. I am so sorry I came in 7 minutes late for your meeting, a meeting I was very, very much looking forward to and very, very excited by. It's not often that we get to hear presentations that encourage us all to dream, really, and not think big, but think huge. And I can only speak on behalf of myself and my team, but we talk about the transformative effects of rail and the broader integration of rail into all facets of society, all users, whether high-speed users between Quebec City and Toronto, or just greater integration of rail for just regular commuters here. I'm going to please take you up on your offer to meet separately with individual councillors, if only to hear more about your ideas and to share, a humble councillor's ideas as well. I've been having many conversations with our very passionate transportation planning staff about rail integration in Ottawa. I'm very pleased to hear from you that Alto is more than willing to work very, very closely with municipalities to look at how we can do that integration of existing rail systems and existing rail infrastructure, where we're not just only serving the needs of high-speed commuters, but working in tandem with the needs of daily commuters just going from point A to point B in a city. So I'm going to try to come over and grab your cards and not hug you at the same time. And I would love to have a meeting at some point.
A hug is welcome, Councillor.
It'll happen. Thank you very much. Thank you, Chair.
Free hugs. All right. Councillor DeRoche.
Thank you, Chair. Would you entertain questions to staff, Mr. Chairman, or is it just exclusively with the delegation?
Absolutely.
Okay. I wonder if I could ask Ms. Chi. I understand that I'm pretty sure that years ago we had acquired some corridors, former rail corridors. Some of them are being used as multi-use pathways, as Councillor Kitts indicated, which I think makes that a real challenge. Can you just confirm whether we, as a city, are owners of any former rail corridors?
Yes, Chair. Thank you for that, Councillor. We do own several corridors that have been abandoned when they come up for sale. The city has a policy to acquire them. So we do acquire them for transportation uses, and we have been using them in the interim for recreation. So there's some facilities along there. Parts of the Trans-Canada Trail is one of the corridor that we have. We acquired a section of the Beachburg just a few years ago. The Prescott Trail. Okay. Sorry, for details, Jennifer can provide you.
The answer is yes. Oh,
Specifically.
okay. Okay, thank you for that answer. And I'll just speak to the Dudas motion if we're talking, you know, I respect the spirit behind it. I feel like Sam and Cowell here today. I think it's an interesting project. We've got a lot of priorities in our own city that we've been championing and we want to see progress on, in particular rail to Canada and Barrhaven. I think it's early to give a ringing endorsement to this project. I think that's the role of the MPs. If they believe this is important to Ottawa, they need to get behind it. And I really appreciate the commitment to be present as this goes forward. I think it looks good on paper, and that's what concerns me is once we get into the detail, there's going to be potentially some challenges that we need to work through. The interprovincial bridges, for example, look good on paper until we start to get into how we're going to plan those. So I respect the intent of the motion, but I'll dissent on it when it comes forward, Chair. Thank you.
Yeah, certainly noted that there's a lot more devil in the detail. And if you're dealing with the NCC, good luck to you. That being said, certainly we'll make sure that your dissent is noted. Councillor Skalski.
Hi, yeah, I just had a question. You mentioned that you're looking at rail, like the existing corridors, but is it exclusive to existing corridors, or is the potential for expropriation of lands and actually identifying private properties as well?
So we are looking for a dedicated corridor which will require land. So there will be a requirement for acquisition. What that looks like in scope, we don't know yet. But what we do know is as we're developing our assessment of the best possible route, one of the criteria that we're looking at is to minimize impact on property owners, farmers, communities as much as we can to ensure as minimal disruption as possible. Daphne, do you want to add?
Well, best practices are to look at minimized impact existing corridor. You mentioned, where we can go that would have the least impact on the community, the environment, and as well as Indigenous reconciliation, things like energy corridors, highways. So we'll be finding the best possible route at the lowest possible impact. Granted the fact that there will be gaps in the route that we'll have to engage with and find a solution.
And just to quickly add, the corridor, as we will all know, is it needs to be as straight as possible. Turning radius required for high-speed rail is around 7 kilometers. So we want to minimize impact, but we also have to be cognizant, like to generate speeds, it needs to be straight.
Just in terms of timing, so you mentioned that there'd be public consultation in January. Do you think that is that sort of the earliest introduction to the community about the project, or do you think at that time you'll actually be able to outline some potential corridors and have residents have an awareness of whether they're implicated?
So the engagement period that we're looking to do from January through March is what I call 80% information, 20% consultation. And I say that because we're trying to both inform everyone on what high-speed rail is, what the benefits are, what the challenges are. With high speed, you can't have level crossings, for example. So that means grade separations, as the councillor mentioned. It also means fencing in some respects because you can't allow people to cross a corridor with a train going 315 kilometers an hour. So the information is going to be really important in introducing the project. Where the consultation component period will be around those wide corridors I mentioned earlier to get community input on what we should be aware of as we're trying to narrow down what we hope will be a preferred alignment.
Okay, so did I hear the wide corridors would be something that's discussed around that January to March period?
Correct.
Yeah. Okay, perfect. Thank you.
Just maybe to mention that we've already done a pre-work of removing the highly sensitive environmental areas, so that first version of the corridor has done a pre-triage work, and then we'll be engaging with what are the priorities.
Thank you, councillor. Oh, Councillor Carr?
Yeah, sorry, I just wanted to follow up on that point. So you mentioned that the Canadian Environmental Impact Assessment is already doing the assessment. So wouldn't they, so they do have a preliminary corridor route?
We have to provide them with a study area corridor later in 2026. And the consultation period will help us to determine what is submitted.
Okay, thanks. And can you just confirm, so the 7-kilometer turning radius means that you need 7 kilometers wide? Can you just explain that a little bit?
Just technically, we're engaging with the Environmental Impact Agency, but we haven't deposited our project description. So we're still working again with, using the field studies, the engagement we're doing to come up with the right project description that's going to have a narrowed corridor after this engagement period. So intention is to provide the impact agency with the, narrowest possible corridor. So we haven't started that part with the agency yet.
Okay, and can you just explain the 7-kilometer turning radius piece?
Yeah, I think, oh, go ahead.
So as a technical requirement for high-speed rail, the train can't turn on a dime, if you will. So that means that we can't have sharp turns. So we'll need to have very wide or that's the high radius curve so that the train can operate at the high speed. So that's why we're saying so we have to find the straightest possible pathway.
Got it, thanks. And high frequency rail in some other countries is located outside, the stations are located outside of the urban center. Are we looking at that here?
Ideally, we want to have stations where there are people. And, whether it's Ottawa, Montreal, Toronto, it's really important. Peterborough, Trois-Rivières would require new stations, right? Because they don't have existing stations in their area.
Okay, so existing stations is what I was looking for. Thank you.
Great. So no Herdman curves on this project.
I think that's right.
Yeah. And so on that, as we get down to the wrap up, and I see Councillor Drost is back on the board, because I think we're getting really in the weeds and something that I asked to be brought here as discussion. Councillor Drost.
Brought a lot of interest.
Simon Cowell.
A lot of interest.
He hates high speed. Continue.
Last question, Chair, I promise. I'm not known for this. Are you contemplating P3 partnerships going forward as part of the execution of this?
That is what we're already using with the consortium.
Okay.
It's alliance model isn't the appropriate term, but it's a joint model of governance with the consortium, from the design, delivery, operations, maintenance of the project.
Okay, thank you. That's all. Thank you for the answers.
That's a terrific question. And thank you, because I've known a little bit about this. There was a lot of confusion, and you can see here today, a lot of people thought, oh, it's going to be the slow train to nowhere. And clearly this is a very ambitious project by the federal government. Again, as a national building project in a time of economic crisis, we have an opportunity here. And it won't, my understanding in speaking with ministers, this is not to take away from municipal initiatives from the FCM perspective. This is a completely separate bucket that looks at this as a national priority. Would that be a correct assumption that I have been part of these discussions? That would be
absolutely correct assumption, a national priority.
Wonderful. So on that, again, any time that I can get onto a train versus sitting at the airport, having to go through a strip search, having to pop my ears and then land back down is a good day. It also creates competition because I don't think flights are that cheap anymore. And we've seen the importance of that. So again, very early days, I want to thank you for coming out and speaking to this. It's education. It will continue. And so we have the motion of Councillor Dudas. I've noted the dissension from Councillor DeRoche. On the rest of Laura's motion, is that item carried? Noting the DeRoche dissent. And then on the actual report, is that report received? Thank you very much for coming out today, folks.
Thank you so much.
So at this point, again, we have two delegations. Unless people had the burning need, you've probably seen the Saint Laurent presentation. I think we've held these folks here long enough. The delegations, my understanding is you want to reverse the order of speaking, I believe. So Richard, if you wanted to come forward to the microphone, if you haven't been here before, there's a microphone up here and our clerk's office and assistants will help you out there right now.
Okay, you just turned it on.
Good morning, all the members of council.
Hi, Richard. How are you doing today? Thank you for coming out. I believe James is with you and your lovely wife, Louise, is here as well today.
Yeah.
So you have 5 minutes if you haven't been
I
here
have.
before, and the floor is yours.
5 minutes right now. Okay. I attended about 2 months ago an open house, and I had a lot of concerns because I have 2 properties along the corridor, and it's going to greatly affect my properties, and I have to talk to you about this. And there's so many things that I have to talk about. I can't remember them all to speak to you, so I wrote it all down. And my good friend James DeBroy here, he will read what I wrote, and so that everything that I have in my mind is.
And we've shared that on our drive as well with all our committee members that you've provided that, and it's been shared as well. So James, thank you for coming out.
Thank you, Mr. Chair, and greetings, ladies and gentlemen of the committee. I'm here with helping, as Richard just said, a longtime friend and his wife, Louise, dealing with an issue that is affecting their properties. As a personal comment, I think the committee just heard a very uplifting, positive story about how things will improve Ottawa and businesses in Ottawa. However, it was pointed out that occasionally when you get down a little into the weeds, you see there's some things that are not all that favorable towards the people and businesses. I think that'll be the case here today, except it's not positive for businesses in Ottawa to start with in this particular case. So let me read, if you don't mind, or highlight. We have copies of what Richard has prepared for delivery here this morning. He's the owner of Renault Limited, which is a business that's been in existence in Ottawa somewhere in the order of 70 years. So it's not just a passing operation, a longstanding company. It owns 2 properties on Saint Laurent Boulevard. The first one's located at 865 Saint Laurent Boulevard, essentially at the intersection of MacArthur Road. The immediate neighbor to the north is the Coconut Lagoon, and the owner of that is here today to represent that situation. And to the south is a building belonging to the Indigenous peoples of Canada, and beyond that, there's commercial establishments such as Heinz, Hyundai, Surgeon Motors, Speedy Muffler, and the like. The second property, owned by Renault Limited, is at the corner of Silville Road and Saint Laurent Boulevard. It is directly across from the shopping center, Saint Laurent Shopping Center. And it's right at the corner of Serville and Saint Laurent. And both these are going to be adversely affected significantly by this plan. So let me start with 865, which is the one that's at the corner of MacArthur. It was purposely designed and built as a 6-bay automotive service garage. It has been providing local area automotive repair service for the past 49 years, half a century. A depiction of the proposed plan will a depiction of the proposed plan shows that it's going to eliminate several of the parking spots, thus leaving the business a 6-bay automotive garage with 3 parking spaces. Adequate parking is critical to the continued viability of this business. Keeping in mind this establishment that caters to automotives, the elimination of 6 of the existing 9 parking spaces and the access to the facility will greatly diminish the property, the capacity of the business and the value of the property. The major issue with the plan is the installation of a bus shelter directly abutting the facility's showroom public area. That facility has near floor to ceiling windows. And given that the bus shelter is going to be within inches of the building itself, of the showroom, it's not even going to be possible to wash the windows of the showroom. There won't be any space between the bus shelter and the showroom. It won't even be possible to weed in between the two. We note that as it is now, there's an existing bus shelter about 92 meters north of the property from the corner of the facility. And that existing bus shelter is in front of a public school, Rideau High School. I don't know, we don't know at this point whether or not that existing bus shelter and bus stop is going to continue to be in the corridor plan.
James, just so you're aware, I usually run a tight ship here, but in this case here, I'm going to extend with the permission of committee over the 5 minutes for additional few minutes, if that's okay, because I want you to move on to the secondary property.
Okay.
We seem to be, and then after we're complete with your delegation, I made note of questions because I think there's a difference in this, and I'm going to ask staff to explain the north section versus the south section, plus all the timelines as well. But we do have a copy of this as well. So if you could please proceed to the next property, just to ensure we get some detail and context around that.
Okay, can I make just a final comment about this property? It's almost at the intersection of MacArthur Road. So you're jamming up that intersection with under the proposed plan. So the second property is, as I said, is at the corner of Silver and Saint Laurent Boulevard. In 1980, there was a strip of land expropriated from this property as well. The purpose of the expropriation was to add a lane to Saint Laurent so that a turn could be made off Saint Laurent onto Serville. So this property has already been struck with a expropriation. And now the plan is proposing to take a further 12.7 feet of property. The property is pie-shaped. If you take a strip off this property, it's going to adversely affect the operation, which is a Petro-Canada self-service gas station. It's going to adversely affect significantly the value of the property. It could very well be, and I'm ad-libbing now, I'm going from memory here because I know our time is short. It could very well be that Petro-Canada won't renew, and we will not find anybody else to renew as a gas bar under those circumstances if you take this property. At the moment, there are 3 parking spots. The plan is going to reduce one of those parking spots, the size of one of those parking spots. That's a dedicated handicap parking spot.
James, if it's okay, unfortunately, the time is concluded, and I got to be fair because I do this whether you're speaking for or against. But that being said, I've noted some questions. I don't see questions from members of committee. After we finish with the second delegation, we know you quite well, sir. We will definitely, I'm sure, have questions to staff, especially about this entire project and the communications with yourself, Richard, about your two properties, as well as the next delegation as well. So thank you for coming out today.
Thank you.
I leave you a copy of my transcript.
Absolutely. We've actually circulated it. We have a drive here, so it's
You said you received it?
That's correct.
Okay, yeah, I had.
And we
sent
have a
it
copy.
last night, and I wasn't sure if it was going to make it in this morning.
Yep, the committee coordinator is
That's
beside me and has confirmed that as well.
Fantastic. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much.
Thank you.
For all your
Looking forward to
opinion. Thank
consideration.
you.
Hi, Joe. How are you doing? You're no stranger to this place. You have great food, by the way. Am I allowed to say that? Am I bonusing by saying that? Coconut Lagoon has the best food. Oh my God. Look out, getting in trouble. No, terrific food. I am known for getting in trouble. You have 5 minutes. The floor is yours.
I don't need 5 minutes, but I just thank you very much. Good morning, everyone. This is first time I'm doing this, but I wanted to echo what Richard said about 856. My building is 853, and literally it's only 5 feet away from his building, my building. And you know, I'm there for 21 years, and during COVID, I had a very bad fire, and I reinvested a lot of money, hoping to make that Saint Laurent much better. And I built a patio. And right now in the plan, the patio supposed to go eliminate the patio and put it on the side, which is north side. I have few concerns because once you take out the patio, the face of my building is gone, and we made it such a way that it looks nice from the front. So if taking out the patio, and after the COVID, it's really important that patios people really enjoy, and we wanted to make it lively, the Saint Laurent Boulevard. That's why we invested a lot of money into that, and people loving it. And having a bus shelter next door, maybe 5 feet away from my building, when there is another bus stop, which is in front of Rideau High School, which has more accessible, people can move around, which is really good. All my staff uses, some of my guests uses that bus stop. I think city should reconsider and put that bus stop there, and you know, try to eliminate less problems for our buildings, which is existing and doing a business and things like that for the past more like 50. My building is there for 100 years, but it's still doing good business there. So I wanted to raise that concern. That's and I echo with Richard. It's nice to develop the Saint Laurent, but you know, considering what is there, and demolishing is easy, but you know, building up is very hard. It's put a lot of effort and things like that. So that's pretty much I have.
Thank you, Joe. And just real quick, before I go to questions to staff, and I think that's where we're going to go. You've been working with staff on the timelines. You know, this isn't imminent. This is like a very future planning exercise. Have they made sure you're aware of that?
Yes, I know that, but
okay,
beginning stage, if I raise our concern,
absolutely,
it can be noted going further down and, you know, getting into the things. So that's why I raised the concern with the people. They said it will be 5 years, 7 years, but still, yeah.
I think it's going to be longer than that, and I'll be grilling staff on that for certain. But that being said, I want to be sitting on your patio one day when I'm not a politician and still enjoying it. So thank you for that, and I'll certainly ask staff those questions.
Thank you.
Thank you. Thanks for coming out today.
Thank
you. Yes, I will. There's a point where I won't be a politician. This will happen. Really, not a chance, right? So on that, thank you for our delegations today. At this point, maybe I'll get staff to comment, because this also triggered me as well. It's great to have these wonderful concepts about the future, but it really gets people very concerned immediately. What committee members need to know, because I'm pretty eminent, I know this file pretty closely. Councillor King and I share many parts of it. We also look at, in the south end, it actually does extend into parts very close to Councillor Carr's as well. There's two segments essentially, and maybe I'll get Jennifer and the gang to explain the south side versus the north side, what funding, if any, is there, which there's none, we have no money, and go into detail about what the timelines would be on something like this, and why this is important. I think that is critical.
So thank you, Chair, for the question. So the project actually divided the corridor into 5 segments, but for the purposes of this discussion, there's really the section that's north of Saint Laurent Eau train station and south of Saint Laurent Eau train station. And the reason for that distinction is because in the 2025 Transportation Master Plan, the segment south of the Saint Laurent Eau train station is identified in the city's priority transit network, which means that we anticipate implementation by 2046. The section north is identified for isolated transit priority improvements, but there is no funding identified for implementation. It's certainly a much longer initiative. So the expectation is that the southern section would be part of the city's application to the Canada Public Transit Fund, but implementation of that southern section is of course dependent on that funding, and the timelines would certainly be sort of best case in the 10-year horizon based on the other projects that we have on the list and the priorities that we have identified. And again, for the north section, there is no funding mechanism identified for implementing those improvements at this time.
So soonest on the south side, and our delegations that you are not in the south side, I believe. No, they're not in the south side, is minimum 10 years.
That's correct. Yes.
And the north side, there's literally no funding. So it would be, and if you're to, obviously we're talking probably a couple decades out, I would assume, or it'd be much further.
Yes, like there's no funding identified. There may be some opportunities to do some smaller scale improvements through our isolated transit priority program, but those would be things that would have minimal property impacts that could be done much more quickly and rapidly. And but the expectation is that we want to move this project, get the environmental assessment approved now, so that as properties come up for redevelopment along those corridors, we're protecting the correct amount of right of way, and that we can acquire the property through that redevelopment process to minimize the need for property acquisition.
Property acquisition. Okay, good. Thank you for that. Councillor DesRoches.
Thank you, Chair. I'm going to leave some of the details, or I'll leave the details of some specifics of the project to the ward councillor who knows it best. So I'll try not to intervene too much, but I was sympathetic to the delegations that came forward. There was some suggestion about changing the design potentially and perhaps moving some stops, what have you. Again, I would defer to the ward councillor on the details of that, but I'm wondering if you just comment on what kind of accommodation could be made to provide some potential relief or some balance there for the patios. Thank you.
So thank you for the question. So this project, this is at the environmental assessment stage, which is the planning stage. There is a design process that will happen. And at that point, the property impacts will be confirmed. All of these details will be confirmed at that point. And certainly opportunities for mitigation are something that staff are very keen to explore. So whether that's things like access consolidations or solutions to parking, if there's opportunities that we're able to pursue, certainly staff are very much wanting to do that, but also to be transparent that there's still likely to be property requirements along the corridor to be able to implement the mobility improvements are recommended in the plan.
Okay, thank you. I was, of course, sympathetic to the feedback that I heard today, and I'm glad to hear that there's further opportunity to dialogue with them and see what kind of balance can be achieved there. Thank you.
Great question. I had the exact same thoughts. So thank you. Oh, I see a hand went down there. Great. And we're going to continue this dialogue. Don't worry. 20 years, as you hear, minimum before we get going on real stuff. So I'll sit in your patio in year 18 and enjoy some great food. So do we have any further questions on this item? Is this item carried? Carried. And we'll continue to discuss, folks, along with Councillor King as well, which is on the other side of the road as well. Thank you very much for coming out today. Great. Councillor Gower, 7.1, the always stop.
Okay, I'll quickly re-ask my question. The location of this always stop seems very similar to other intersections in my ward that we've been told we cannot do always stops without sidewalks and accessibility measures. So I'm concerned about the risk we might have of violating the AODA and wondering if staff can clarify or provide any additional context about why or how this might be different from other suburban wards.
Thank you. Through you, Chair. This location was deemed to not require sidewalks or implementation of twizzies and sidewalks due to the current configuration of the intersection. All approaches to the intersection are a rural cross-section with no existing separate pedestrian facilities. So there's no need for pedestrians using the intersection to mount a curb or have to go up and down from a curb at the intersection in order to facilitate their crossing at that location.
Okay, I'm certain I've got an intersection, at least one in my ward, where it has the same current characteristics, and we've been told that a stop cannot be installed without upgrading pedestrians. So I'm not, I just want to be clear. I think that the councillor has every right to request an always stop control, and I'm just concerned about that discrepancy in compliance with ADOA. So I'm going to dissent on this, but I will confer with our accessibility experts of the city. I just want to better understand and make sure we're being consistent. So thanks, Chair.
Fair question. Councillor Lowe, did you wish to respond?
Yeah, I'll just speak quickly to the report. Brentmore Road was built way back when, and in fact, it was one of those roads that at one point was a trail by Indigenous people before settlement. So and then it became today's road. So it was built as part of the Heart's Desire community in the 1950s or so, and at that time, Heart's Desire was a rural hamlet, and the road, Brentmore, was a through road between Woodruff and what was then Jockvale, what is now Longfields. As Barrhaven grew as Barrhaven grew and encroached the south towards Heart's Desire, Brentmore was cut off, but it's still often used as a throughway across my community, across that community. And so, traffic volumes there are still quite low, but there's enough traffic there to have caused concerns, and I have received fairly regular requests over the last 3 years. Staff have been very good with doing. I think there was one assessment that was done, the actual assessment that was done, and it didn't meet warrants. The thing is, it will never meet warrants. And this being a rural cross section, I found an opportunity here to address those resident concerns. I won't say quickly, but in a way, I found a way to address those resident concerns, and so I hope you can support me here in improving the safety at this intersection. There's also a sightline issue, but I won't get into that. But I hope you can support me in helping my community there improve this intersection, so that we can put one point of traffic, in a way, a traffic calming for the community. Thanks.
Great. Thank you, Councillor Lowe. Looking around the table, if we note just the dissent, is this item carried?
I'm going to dissent as well.
Okay, so on that 2 dissents, we got Vice Chair Kitts and and Committee Member Gower. Forgive me. Thank you for that. So we're on to the next item. You're back up, Councillor Lowe, in regards to the Watershield neighborhood parking restrictions. Maybe you want to introduce this. Thank you.
Do I need to read it in again, or?
It's already been read, and we'll allow for debate and discussion.
Okay, so thanks very much. The neighborhood that's in question here is a neighborhood that was built in sometime in the mid-2010s. Shortly after that, a mosque was added. The mosque fronts onto Woodruff, but it does have a back entrance for both vehicles and pedestrians to the property. So what's been happening over the last few years is last decade almost actually, is that there's been a lot of on-street parking, which on its own is not an issue, right? There's been a lot of on-street parking on both sides of these streets. The streets, though, however, are none of these are collector streets. All of these streets in the residential area are about 9 meters wide, 10 meters wide. And so they're inner residential streets. They're not collector streets. So they're not designed for a lot of through traffic with both sides of parking. To add to that, this neighborhood doesn't have driveways. Most of this neighborhood rather doesn't have driveways. And so if when we get both sides of parking on that street and you have a car, like the emergency vehicles notwithstanding, if you're just looking at private vehicle traffic, if you have a car enter into this corridor with both sides of street parking, there is actually no way for the other car to duck around to let the other person pass. So it creates interesting situations. It creates situations where vehicles may have to back out a long stretch of roadway to let someone else pass. It's created situations in the past for snowplows, which we have addressed with staff through winter parking restrictions. And basically, this motion asks to extend the winter parking restrictions side of the street to apply to worship times only. I understand that targeting that one time can be problematic, but Occam's razor is you target the issue, right? So over the last 3 years since I was elected, I had engaged with the mosque on multiple occasions on parking situation, but also the on-site parking situation at the facility. And it hasn't yielded much. The mosque administration does communicate with their community to be respectful neighbors and to be respectful neighbors. But understanding that it is a very large community, people might not heed that message the way that the administration's intended. But I do appreciate the mosque administration for all the dialogue that we've had. So this motion aims to add a parking restriction for 4 hours every Friday on the same side where there is a winter restriction, existing winter restriction that will start after next winter as to roll out, as to not have that shock of losing one side of parking. And one side of street parking will still be retained on all of these streets during those 4 hours. Happy to answer any questions and happy to answer any questions. Thank you.
Great. Committee Member Troster.
Thanks to the mover. Do you know of any other example where parking is restricted during the very specific hours that a religious institution has daily prayers?
Not that I know of here. In my hometown, there's a short stretch of street where Sunday parking is restricted because of a church. It's not Ottawa, but
So have you sought to restrict parking during church services near any of the congregations in your ward?
I don't have any churches.
Okay. I can't support this motion for a number of reasons. I understand you're trying to solve a problem, but we have a mosque the Centertown Mosque recently took over a former church building in Centertown. And the reality of Muslim religious obligations is it involves prayer multiple times a day. So for people who even live close by, sometimes they do have to drive into park because they're going in and out of the congregation 3, 4, 5 times a day. That is a religious obligation. I'm deeply concerned about a precedent specifically banning parking during the time that a congregation is engaged in prayer services that are